The colonel laughed at the black woman when her first shot missed, his smug echo cutting across the range. Every man thought she'd fail. She'd never belong here. What they didn't see was the storm beneath her calm, the scar beneath her cap, or the steel in her eyes. 5 flawless shots were coming, shots that would shatter expectations at the military academy and make history. From which city in the world are you watching this video? Tell us in the comments below. And if stories of hidden greatness and justice served inspire you, hit subscribe for more powerful stories every week. The morning sun cast sharp shadows across Fort Bellwether as a transport truck screeched to a halt, unloading the newest wave of candidates for the elite sniper program. Among them, Ava Carter stepped down, her face hidden beneath her standard-issue cap. While others instantly grouped up, bragging about hunting trophies and shooting competitions, Ava stood quietly at parade rest, duffel at her feet, scanning the field. 24 recruits. 23 men with hardened eyes of combat veterans, or the cocky smirks of sharpshooters who thought they'd already won. And then her. Their sideways glances didn't surprise her. They never did, but they still cut deep. Colonel Richard Kane strode out from the administrative building, clipboard in hand, disdain carved deep into his weathered face. His cold eyes swept across the recruits until they locked on Ava with undisguised skepticism. "Listen up," Kane barked. "Half of you won't last past week 1. Another quarter will quit before week 3. The rest, maybe, might earn the right to call yourselves snipers." His eyes burned into Ava. This isn't a program built for accommodations or sympathy. His words weren't subtle, and neither were the nods from the men who turned to glare at her. Ava's face remained carved from stone. "Fall in," Kane ordered. Lines formed, boots stomping in rhythm. "First assessment in 30. Gear check. Forget something? Then you're already behind." The weapons assessment was merciless. Candidates were ordered to strip, clean, and reassemble their rifles against the clock. Ava's hands moved with a precision that was almost musical, every motion controlled, efficient, like a pianist playing notes she'd memorized long ago. It caught the sharp eyes of Captain Daniel Ward observing from the sidelines, tablet in hand. Kane, however, stalked closer. "Military issue only," he snapped. "No modifications." "Sir, this is standard issue," Ava replied, calm but firm. Kane bent low, searching for flaws. He found none. Irritation flickered in his eyes. "Trigger pull feels light. 5 pounds 4 ounces, sir." "Within regulations." Kane's jaw clenched. Finding nothing to attack, he growled, "Proceed!" Across the range, one recruit leaned against his station, watching her. Ryan Cross, blonde buzz cut, sharp jaw, arrogance radiating from his smirk. He finished his rifle assembly and never took his eyes off Ava, sizing her up like prey. By evening, names were read for barracks assignments. Kane, with deliberate malice, stuck Ava in the farthest quarters, at the end of a wing that looked like it had been slapped on as an afterthought. "Hope you don't mind the extra walk, Carter." "Limited space," he said, smirk tugging at his mouth. "No issue, sir," Ava replied flatly. As she left, Ryan Cross appeared with 2 recruits flanking him. "Carter, right?" "Ryan Cross, 3rd-generation Army. Father? Special Forces. Grandfather? Vietnam." He extended a hand, which Ava shook once, brief and cold. "What brings you to sniper school?" Ryan smirked. "Could have tried military photography instead." His buddies chuckled. "Following the path that fits my skills," Ava said evenly. Ryan's grin widened. "Sure, my dad says they're forcing diversity too hard. Some roles require natural attributes women don't have. Upper body strength, stress tolerance, biology. You get it." The laughter rippled cruelly. Ava's knuckles whitened on her duffel, but her face stayed unreadable. "I'll keep that in mind during qualifications," she said, and walked away. That night, Ava unpacked carefully. From her bag, she pulled a worn photograph, stared at it, then placed it face down on the nightstand. A knock at the door drew her attention. Captain Ward stood there, silhouetted. "Settling in, Carter?" "Yes, sir. I reviewed your scores." "Impressive, especially long-range accuracy under stress." "Thank you, sir." "You do know the program's history? No woman has made it through in 8 years." "I'm aware, sir," Ava replied, her eyes steady. Ward nodded, unreadable, before leaving. As the door closed, Ava overheard two instructors whispering outside. 8 years since a woman tried. Kane makes sure of that. Later in the mess hall, Ava ate alone, silently reviewing her notes while the other recruits huddled together. Ryan's voice rose above the others. My buddy at Fort Begning said a female recruit cracked under pressure. Broke down crying during surveillance. Had to be pulled out. That won't happen here, someone muttered. Kane weeds them out first week. Ava ignored them, eyes fixed on her calculations. Suddenly a tray slid down across from hers. A recruit with dark eyes and a tired smile sat. Jordan Reyes, he said, tapping his badge. Figured you could use company that isn't toxic? Not worried about guilt by association? Ava asked. He shrugged. My sister's a medic in the 10th Mountain. Tougher than most guys I know. Before Ava could respond, Colonel Kane stormed into the hall. Every recruit snapped to attention. Tomorrow. 0500. Full gear. 10-mile hike. Then range qualifications. His eyes landed on Ava. Sleep well. That night in her bunk, Ava stared at the ceiling. She knew Kane's type, men who believed women weakened combat units, who saw them as a threat to tradition. But in her mind, a memory flickered. A hand on her shoulder, a voice. Show them nothing until it's time. Her jaw set. Dawn came brutal and fast. 24 recruits stood in fog, packs heavy, rifles slung. Kane's voice was ice. This course will strip you down to nothing. Let's see what's left when the dust clears. The 10-mile march chewed through mud, streams, and slopes. Packs weighed 60 pounds. By mile 5, 3 recruits had already fallen behind. Ava kept steady in the middle, every step deliberate. Ryan kept glancing back, waiting for her to collapse. She didn't. At a steep incline, Kane stalked beside her. Struggling, Carter? No, sir, Ava said evenly, legs burning but face calm. This is nothing. Wait until you're dragging a spotter scope through mountain passes. Looking forward to it, sir, Ava replied coolly. Kane scowled and pushed the front harder. By the time they reached the range, only 21 recruits remained. Ava was still standing, sweat-drenched, breath heavy but controlled. 5 minutes, Kane barked. Then the real test begins. Targets stretched out 300 to 800 meters away. Recruits readied rifles. Jordan Reyes leaned over. Heard you shot expert in basic, true? Ava nodded, eyes on her weapon. That's why Kane's gunning for you, huh? Before she could reply, Ryan Cross smirked, water bottle dangling in his hand. Giving our diversity pick a pep talk, Reyes? Just talking, Jordan shot back. Ryan smirked wider. Sure. Hey, Carter. Bet $20 my shots are tighter at every range. I don't bet, Ava replied coldly, loading her rifle. Smart. You'll need the money, Ryan sneered. Ryan slapped palms with another recruit as he swaggered back to his station, grin wide. Just then, Captain Daniel Ward entered with a clipboard tucked under his arm. Qualification begins in 2 minutes. This is only baseline, he announced, voice calm but commanding. Your score today sets your rank, but it doesn't define your fate. Ava Carter stepped onto the firing line, her pulse steady, though she felt every pair of eyes boring into her back. She knew what they wanted, to see her fail. She adjusted her scope, calculated the faint breeze, and waited. In her mind, her father's voice echoed, Patience, position, precision. Commence fire, barked Colonel Richard Kane, and the range exploded with thunderous shots. When it ended, Ava ranked 5th overall, her grouping sharp and consistent. Ryan Cross placed first, and his smug grin as the results posted said it all. He thought Ava didn't belong. 2 recruits dropped out by the end of week 1, crushed under the weight of Kane's brutal standards. The remaining 19 fell into a grueling rhythm. Pre-dawn runs, theory classes on wind and ballistics, and long afternoons at the range. By week 2, storms rolled in. Bitter rain lashed Fort Bellwether, turning the sky into a sheet of gray and the ground into a swamp. The instructors called it a gift. Battlefield weather is never kind, Ward reminded them, eyes hard. That morning's conditioning nearly broke them. An obstacle course turned to mud by endless rain, 30-pound sandbags strapped to their backs. Ava's smaller frame strained hardest at the mud crawl beneath barbed wire. She dragged herself through, caked in mud, lungs burning, finishing a minute behind Ryan. At the line, Colonel Kane waited, stopwatch in hand. "Struggling, Carter? That was only a warm-up? Completed to standard, sir," Ava forced out. "Barely," Kane sneered, scribbling on his clipboard. 1 minute 17 slower than Cross. In combat, that delay costs lives. Ava swallowed the sting. She knew her advantage wasn't brute strength. It was the rifle. And Kane was about to find out. The storm worsened as the recruits lined up at the long-range course. Flags whipped violently, crosswinds unpredictable. Kane's voice cut through the rain. 5 shots. 400 to 800 meters. Miss 2, you're on remedial. Miss 3, you're gone. The room shifted. Eyes darted toward Ava. Ryan took his turn, nearly flawless, missing only 1 at the maximum distance. Michael Reyes fumbled 2 but clawed back at the last. Then it was Ava's turn. Colonel Kane hovered behind her, closer than he had to anyone else. His presence pressed down like a weight. "Adjust your stance, Carter." "Fundamentals all wrong," he barked as she set her sights at 400 meters. Ava's stance was textbook, but she shifted slightly, refusing to let him smell defiance. 10 seconds, Carter!" Kane's voice thundered. "That hesitation gets your team killed." The countdown shattered her rhythm. Her first shot went wide, missing the target completely. Laughter rippled down the line. Ryan shouted, "Guest diversity quotas don't fix aim." More laughter followed. "Some people just aren't built for precision," Kane announced loudly, smug satisfaction etched across his face. He turned to walk away, already confident she'd prove him right, but Ava wasn't done. She sat frozen for a breath, rage coiling inside her. Slowly, deliberately, she removed her cap, revealing a thin scar along her temple. She set it down beside her rifle and drew in a measured breath. 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold. The rhythm of a seasoned sniper. Something in that breathing pattern made Kane pause mid-step. Recognition flickered across his face. Ava's second attempt cracked through the storm. Clang! Dead center at 400 me. Murmurs rose. Another bolt cycle. Another perfect bullseye at 500 meters. The whispers died to silence. At 600 me, dead center again. Ryan's smirk dissolved, replaced by something closer to dread. At 700 meters, a violent gust flipped the flags. Without hesitation, Ava adjusted and fired. Another perfect hit. Kane staggered back, clipboard trembling in his hands. Her final shot at 800 meter came during the worst wind of the day. She squeezed the trigger. Bullseye. The center of the target shattered completely. The range fell silent except for the patter of rain. Kane's face drained of color. For the first time, his rigid stance faltered. His voice was barely audible. "You're Carter's daughter. Sergeant Major Carter." The name rippled like a shockwave. Ava's father, the legendary sniper, a record holder whispered about in every circle. Captain Ward stepped forward now, his voice clear. Not just his daughter. Staff Sergeant Ava Carter, Silver Star recipient. Operation Northwind. 3-day overwatch without moving. A record-breaking shot that saved an entire platoon. Gasps tore through the recruits. Ryan's jaw dropped. His earlier mockery crumbled into shame. He had taunted a decorated veteran, but her record, Kane stammered. Her file listed her as a direct entry candidate. Ward pulled a folder from beneath his coat. "Her real file. The one you should have received, Colonel. Had you followed proper protocol." Kane flipped through the papers, his expression collapsing into disbelief, then dread. Ward's gaze swept the recruits. "Staff Sergeant Carter is here to evaluate this program. After multiple complaints of discrimination. Against you, Colonel Kane," the truth hit like thunder. Recruits shifted uncomfortably, realizing they'd been pawns in Kane's game. Ava secured her rifle, then faced him directly. "I didn't come here for special treatment," she said coldly. "I came to make sure everyone is treated the same." Her words cut through the rain sharper than any bullet. Kane struggled to keep his composure, but years of arrogance were unraveling fast. His career, the authority he'd built, was crumbling in front of 19 silent witnesses. Captain Daniel Ward entered briskly, breaking the silence. "The Colonel wants to see all of us. Now!" As they gathered their gear, Ryan Cross approached Ava Carter. The arrogance that once dripped from his every word was gone, replaced by unease. "Staff Sergeant, I want to apologize. My comments were out of line." Ava's calm eyes locked on him. "Were they out of line because I turned out to be different than you assumed, or because they were wrong from the beginning?" Ryan froze. The question cut deeper than a reprimand. It forced reflection. Ava shouldered her rifle, her voice steady. "Something to think about. A good sniper questions their assumptions before pulling the trigger. Applies to more than just the range." As the group marched back toward the administration building, the storm outside eased. Recruits who once dismissed Ava now looked at her with conflicted eyes, shame, curiosity, and respect all colliding. Michael Reyes fell into step beside her. "For what it's worth, I knew you were special. I just didn't know how special." "Everyone here has potential," Ava replied. "It just doesn't always look the same." That doesn't make it less real. Inside Colonel Kane's office, the air was heavy with authority. Awards lined one wall, maps covered another. Kane sat behind a polished mahogany desk, studying files with surgical precision. "Sit," he ordered. Ava and Captain Ward obeyed. Colonel Kane stood stiff at attention, his jaw tight. "I've been reviewing the preliminary findings of Staff Sergeant Carter's assessment," Kane said, voice sharp. "Disturbing reading." Colonel Kane swallowed hard but said nothing. Kane removed his glasses, placed them on the file. 6 qualified female candidates failed out of your program in the past 3 years. All scored in the top percentile. All dismissed by your evaluations. Colonel Kane tried to defend himself, but Kane cut him off. "That's why Carter was embedded here. Her combat record speaks for itself. Her data speaks about you. Staff Sergeant, your assessment?" Ava didn't hesitate. "Systematic bias, sir. Both direct and indirect. Female candidates and minority recruits faced harsher criticism, less support, and uneven standards. Today's qualification is one example. Colonel Kane disrupted my preparation, imposed time pressure he didn't use with others, then marked failure as inevitable. Similar patterns occurred with Santiago last week, Washington before that." Kane nodded gravely. "Your recommendation?" "Restructure the program, sir. 2 instructors minimum for every evaluation, standardized metrics, and immediate removal of Colonel Kane as lead instructor." Colonel Kane flushed crimson. "Sir, with respect, Carter has been here less than 2 weeks. This is premature." "No," Kane cut in firm. "The only difference is that Carter's record makes her impossible to dismiss. You maintain your preferred standards, Colonel. That is not the same as the Army's standards. The verdict was swift. Colonel Kane demoted to probationary status. Ward would assume primary command of training. Ava would co-instruct. Her expertise officially recognized." As they exited, Colonel Kane muttered stiffly to Ava, his voice tinged with reluctant respect. "Your father trained me. Advanced course 2009, toughest instructor I ever had." Ava's reply was razor-sharp, calm. He believed in one standard for all. No excuses. No predetermined failures. Back at the range, the recruits sensed the shift. Colonel Kane, once the unchallenged authority, now lingered in the background. Ward took command. Ava moved among the recruits like a seasoned mentor, her presence undeniable. Ryan Cross approached again, voice quieter this time. "I read about Operation Northwind. I didn't realize what it meant. 3 days without moving, in freezing cold, waiting for one shot." 94 hours, Ava corrected. Target was coordinating attacks on a forward base. "Discomfort is temporary. Mission failure is permanent." Ryan absorbed this, humbled. "I owe you another apology. What I said about women not having the right attributes, that was ignorant." Ava didn't accept or reject his words. Instead, she pointed to his rifle. "Your stance is off. Too much tension in your shoulder. You're pulling right on your 3rd shot, every sequence." Ryan blinked, stunned. "How did you even notice that?" "By paying attention," Ava said simply. She adjusted his stance, subtle but effective. "Now try." Ryan fired again. This time, the shot landed true. His shoulders eased. "That feels stable." "It is. Stop fighting your body. Work with it." For the first time, Ryan looked at her not as a rival, but as someone he could learn from. Word spread fast. Ava Carter wasn't just here to prove herself. She was here to elevate everyone. Weeks passed. Under Ward's leadership and Ava's guidance, performance soared. Recruits once considered failures began to thrive. Even Colonel Kane, stripped of swagger, started echoing Ava's lessons, measured, disciplined, respectful. When Colonel Kane returned to observe, he saw a program reborn. Washington and Santiago, once on the brink of washing out, now excelled. Michael Reyes became a steady mentor for younger recruits. Ryan Cross, once cocky and careless, had transformed into one of the most consistent shooters. Kane leaned toward Ava. Impressive progress. Your father would have been proud. His philosophy lives on in you. 6 weeks later, Ava stood on a new range at Fort Lennox, watching the most diverse class in the program's history line up. 3 women among them. She saw Colonel Kane instructing, his tone measured, respectful. She saw Ryan correcting another recruit's stance. She saw Michael offering encouragement. The culture had shifted, from exclusion to excellence. That night, packing her belongings for the next mission, Ava placed 2 photographs in her case. One from her Silver Star ceremony with her father. Another, taken just days ago, of her standing with her recruits. Her father's words echoed from memory. Excellence doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. It persists. Always. She ran her fingers over the engraving on her rifle case. Truth finds its mark. At Fort Bellwether it had. Not with anger. Not with confrontation. But with proof. With persistence. With excellence, undeniable, Ava Carter closed her case, ready for the next battlefield, not of bullets, but of breaking barriers. Could you stay calm under pressure when everyone doubts you? What would you do if you were a black woman in a military academy? How far would you go to prove them wrong? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Black Nation Strength for more jaw-dropping stories of Black excellence, courage, and triumph. Weekly inspiration you won't want to miss.